Who are you? Your name, your thoughts, or something beyond? The more we define ourselves, the more identity slips away. This video explores paradoxes that challenge who you think you are. Let go, relax, and embrace the mystery of self, the forgotten dream self. If you lived a full life in a dream but forgot it upon waking, was that identity ever real? You close your eyes, and the world you know dissolves. Suddenly, you are someone else, in a different place, living a different life. It feels as real as anything you've ever known. You love, you lose, you grow, you change. Years pass, you wake up. It's all gone, just a dream. But was it? What if, in that dream, you had a family, friends, a history? What if you spent decades there, building a life, feeling every moment as vividly as you do now? You laughed, you cried, you made choices, and then, in an instant, it all vanished. You don't even remember their names, but they were real to you. Think about this. If your mind can create an entire lifetime while you sleep, then how different is this waking life? What if this moment, right now, is just another dream, a longer one, a more persistent one? And what happens when you wake up from it? If identity is built on memories, and those memories disappear, does the person who lived them also disappear? Were they ever truly you, or did an entire version of you simply cease to exist when the dream ended? Imagine waking up and feeling an overwhelming sadness, a deep sense of loss, but you don't know why. Could it be that your mind remembers something your conscious self has forgotten? A life lived in another world, erased in an instant. What if you could remember your dream life perfectly? Every detail, every experience. Would you be two people at once? Would you still be the person you were before you fell asleep? Or would that dream identity merge with your waking one, changing who you are forever? Consider this. When you wake up from a nightmare, you feel relief. When you wake up from a beautiful dream, you feel longing. If those emotions are real, does that mean the life in the dream was real too? Or does reality only exist in the moment you're experiencing it? Imagine you dream of being someone completely different, a different body, a different past, a different personality. If you lived that life for years in the dream, would that version of you believe this current life is just a dream? And what if, right now, you are the dream self? What if another version of you is sleeping somewhere, and when they wake up, you will vanish just as quickly as a forgotten dream? Every night, you die in one world and are reborn in another, but because you don't remember it, you assume it never existed. But just because something is forgotten, does that mean it wasn't real? Imagine a river that flows for 1,000 miles, but you only see one part of it. Does the rest of the river cease to exist because you are not looking at it? Or is it still there, waiting beyond your sight? What if your dreams are not just random thoughts, but entire realities you slip into? What if every time you sleep, you live another life, just as rich, just as meaningful as this one? And what if, when you wake up, that version of you forgets this life, just as you forget the dream? If that's true, then how can you ever be sure which life is real? Is it the one you remember, or the one you are living in this moment? What if dreams are glimpses into parallel versions of yourself? What if you are not dreaming at all, but traveling between different versions of you, in different places, living different lives? And if that's the case, then which you is the real one, the one dreaming, or the one waking up? Imagine if one night, you have a dream so powerful, so vivid, that when you wake up, you can no longer tell which life was the dream, and which was real. How would you choose? Could you choose? If identity is simply the accumulation of memories, and those memories can be erased, then what are you without them? Are you just an empty space, waiting to be filled with the next set of experiences? And what happens after death? What if, instead of ending, you simply wake up as someone else, in another place, with no memory of who you were before? Would that person still be you? What if every night, when you dream, you step into another life, and every morning, when you wake up, you leave another version of yourself behind, continuing to exist in a place you will never return to? What if every dream is a window into another existence, another self, another reality? And what if every morning, when you open your eyes, you are simply closing the door to something else? Perhaps identity is not something fixed, but something fluid, shifting and changing with every dream, every thought, every experience. Maybe you are not one person, but many, living countless lives, each as real as the next. The body swap paradox. If you woke up in someone else's body, but kept your mind, are you still you? You open your eyes and feel something is wrong. The air smells different. Your hands look strange. The voice that comes out of your mouth isn't yours. Panic sets in as you stumble to a mirror and stare at a face you don't recognize. It's not a dream. It's not a trick. You've woken up in someone else's body, but your thoughts, your memories, your emotions, those are still yours. So, what does that mean? Are you still you? Or are you now someone else entirely? For your entire life, your sense of identity has been tied to your physical form. The way you walk, the way you gesture, the way you smile, all of it felt natural because you were used to the body you were born with. But now, those small, unconscious habits are missing. Your new body moves differently. It reacts to emotions differently. It even feels hunger, pain, and exhaustion in ways you've never known. You are still thinking like yourself, but the body is foreign. How long before you start to feel foreign too? Your brain holds the memories of your past, the knowledge of who you are, and the emotions that shaped you. But what if the brain is not the only thing that makes you who you are? Your body carries muscle memory, instincts, and reflexes that have developed over time. Now, in this new body, you might find yourself walking differently, holding a pen differently, even experiencing emotions in a slightly altered way. Would these changes slowly rewrite your identity? Imagine waking up as a person of a different gender, a different age, or a different culture. If your body has always shaped how people treat you, then would your entire social experience change overnight? If you were once treated with respect and now face prejudice, or if you were once invisible and now command attention, would those new experiences shift how you see yourself? Or would you hold on to your original identity, even as the world starts to mold you into someone new? The mind and the body are not separate. Your body affects how you think. Hormones control your emotions. The shape of your face influences how people react to you. The amount of strength in your muscles affects your confidence. If all of those things change, then how much of you is truly independent of the physical form? Now think about memory. If your body changed but your memories remained, you might still feel like yourself at first. But what if, over time, those memories faded? If you started to forget your old life, the face you used to have, the name people used to call you, would you still be that person? Or would you slowly become someone new? What if you woke up in a body with physical limitations you never had before? If you were once an athlete, but now struggle to walk, would you still feel like the same person? What if the opposite happened? If you went from being weak to strong, from sick to healthy, from short to tall, would you feel like a better version of yourself? Or a stranger inhabiting an unfamiliar shell? Consider relationships. If you were married, if you had children, if you had friends who loved you, would they still recognize you? If they looked into your eyes and saw a stranger, would they still believe you were you? Would they trust the mind inside, or would they be unable to separate your identity from the body they once knew? And what about love? If you loved someone deeply, would that love survive the body swap? If they looked at you and saw a stranger, would they still feel the same way? And would you, if you reached out to hold their hand and felt an unfamiliar texture against your skin, would that moment feel as intimate, as real? Imagine looking into the mirror and not recognizing yourself. Imagine losing all the facial expressions that once felt familiar. The way you furrowed your brow when you were deep in thought, the way you smiled when you were genuinely happy, gone. Now when you frown, it looks different. When you laugh, the sound isn't yours. Even if you still know who you are, can you truly feel like yourself when your reflection is a stranger? What if the body you woke up in had a completely different history? Scars you don't remember getting, tattoos you never chose, a voice that speaks with a different accent. Would you adopt that past as part of yourself? Or would you constantly feel like you were wearing a mask, pretending to be someone you're not? Now imagine trying to prove you are you. Your fingerprints don't match. Your face doesn't match. If you told your family and friends, would they believe you? Or would they assume you were lying, insane, or even an imposter? If no one else recognizes you as yourself, how long before you stop recognizing yourself? If identity is tied to experience, then would living in a new body lead to new experiences that reshape you? If your new body had skills your old body never did, could play the piano, had a natural talent for art, or was built for endurance, would those skills become part of who you are? Or would they always feel borrowed, not truly yours? And what about instincts? If you swapped into an animal's body, would your human mind remain intact? Or would instincts take over? What if you slowly stopped thinking like yourself and started thinking like the creature you had become? At what point would you stop being you entirely? If someone else woke up in your body and had access to your memories, would they be you? Or would they just be playing the role of you, performing your life like an actor on a stage? If they remembered your childhood, felt your emotions, and spoke with your voice, how could anyone tell they weren't actually you? Imagine the swap happened, not just once, but multiple times. You wake up in a new body today, then another tomorrow, then another. If this continued endlessly, would your sense of self disappear? Or would you carry your identity with you, adapting to each new form but remaining fundamentally you? Now consider a horrifying thought. What if the swap was incomplete? What if half of your memories were replaced with someone else's? If you remembered half of your life as one person and half as another, which one would be real? Would you be two people at once, or neither? What if you swapped minds with someone and then swapped back? Would you return to your body exactly as you were? Or would the experience of living as someone else permanently change you? Would you ever feel truly at home in your own skin again? And what if the swap wasn't random but a choice? If you had the opportunity to switch to a different body, would you take it? Would you choose a stronger body, a healthier one, a more beautiful one? Or would you stay in your own form, accepting it as an essential part of who you are? If you could swap at will, jumping from body to body, would you still have an identity at all? Or would you become something fluid, ever-changing, no longer bound to a single version of yourself? If you could never settle, would you start to feel like no one at all? Perhaps identity isn't something fixed. Maybe it isn't in the body, or even in the mind. Maybe it's in the act of remembering. Maybe you are whoever you believe yourself to be in the moment. And if that's true, then perhaps the real question isn't whether you'd still be you, but whether you ever existed in the first place. The lost time paradox. If you woke up and realized 10 years had passed instantly, are you still the same person? Imagine going to bed one night, expecting to wake up the next morning as usual. But when you open your eyes, everything is different. The room you're in isn't yours. The clothes on your body feel unfamiliar. You rush to a mirror and the face staring back at you is older, 10 years older. Your hands have changed. Your hair is different. The world outside the window is not the same. Panic creeps in as you check the date. A full decade has passed in the blink of an eye, but in your mind, it was only a moment. The weight of lost time crashes down on you. What happened in these missing years? What have you forgotten? You try to recall your last memory before this moment, but your mind is blank. 1 second, you were living your life as normal. The next, everything is different. The people you knew may have moved on. The world may have changed in ways you don't understand. But the biggest question remains, are you still you? If identity is shaped by experience, and you've lost 10 years of experiences, how much of yourself has been erased? You are still carrying the memories of the person you were 10 years ago, but the world sees someone different. The people around you expect you to remember things you don't. They expect you to have changed, evolved, become someone new. But to you, nothing has changed at all. Are you still the person they remember? Or are you a ghost of your former self, trapped in a body that doesn't match your mind? You step outside and realize the world is not as you left it. Technology has advanced, politics have shifted. Strangers recognize you, but you don't know who they are. Friends and family speak to you with warmth, telling stories of times you don't remember, relationships you never formed, decisions you never made. You are a stranger in your own life, forced to accept the choices of a version of you that you don't recall. But if you never lived those years, can you claim those choices as your own? What if you wake up to find your loved ones changed? Your best friend is now married with children. Your parents have aged in ways that feel unnatural to you. Some people you once knew are gone, moved away, lost to time, or worse. You grieve, but it's a grief that feels misplaced, like you're mourning a version of life you never had the chance to experience. If your emotions don't match the passage of time, do they still belong to you? And what about the person you were supposed to become? In 10 years, people change. Their opinions shift. Their habits evolve. They develop new skills, new fears, new dreams. But you haven't had that time. You are stuck as the person you were a decade ago, while the world has been molding you into someone else without your consent. If identity is the sum of all experiences, then without those experiences, are you incomplete? You check your phone, your computer, old messages, fragments of a life you don't remember living. Your past self has left behind a trail of decisions, conversations, commitments. A version of you has been here, making choices, shaping the future, but it wasn't you who lived through it. You see photos of yourself in places you don't recall, smiling with people who call you a friend, yet you feel no connection to them. Are you still responsible for the actions of a person you don't remember being? Now imagine trying to reclaim your lost identity. You try to blend in, to pretend you remember things you don't, to act as though nothing is wrong. But deep down, you know you're living someone else's life. The life of the version of you who had 10 years to grow, to change, to experience things that never happened in your mind. Would you even want to be that person? Or would you hold on to the person you used to be, resisting the idea that time has stolen something from you? And what if those lost years weren't kind? What if the world tells you that you made mistakes, that you hurt people, that you became someone you would have never imagined becoming? If the past decade shaped you into a person you don't like, do you have to accept that identity? Or do you get to start over, rewriting yourself from the last point you remember? Is identity something you can reset, or is it something that time forces upon you? Think about the emotions that come with lost time. You feel sadness for what you missed, frustration for what you don't remember, fear for what you don't understand. But there's also something else, freedom. If you can't remember the burdens of the last 10 years, do they still belong to you? If you don't recall your failures, are they still your failures? Or is this an opportunity to start fresh, to rebuild yourself with nothing but the memories of who you used to be? But can you truly start over? Even if you don't remember, the world does. There are records of your past, people with expectations, a future already shaped by choices you don't remember making. The person you were before the lost time might not exist anymore, not just in your mind but in reality. If the world sees you as someone else, are you that person now, whether you like it or not? Consider identity as a continuous thread, weaving together your past, present, and future. If a decade of that thread is cut away, does the fabric of your identity still hold? Or is it permanently unraveled, leaving you to pick up the pieces and stitch together something new? What if, instead of losing time, you had gained it? What if you had 10 years of memories implanted into your mind, memories of events that never actually happened? Would you be the same person you were before? Or would those false experiences reshape you just as much as real ones? If a life you don't remember can make you feel lost, can a life you never lived make you feel whole? Now imagine, this wasn't a mystery, but a choice. What if you could skip forward in time, bypassing the hard years, avoiding pain and struggle, waking up only for the best moments? Would you still feel like yourself, if you missed all the experiences that shaped who you were supposed to become? Would the person you skipped past ever truly be you? And what if you weren't the only one? If millions of people lost time in the same way, would identity itself become meaningless? If we could all wake up years later, unchanged while the world moves on, would we still be individuals, or just echoes of the past struggling to fit into a present we don't belong to? Maybe identity is not about time at all, Maybe it's not about memory, experiences, or even personal growth. Maybe it's about something deeper, something unshakable, something that remains even when everything else is stripped away. But if that's true, then what is it? If 10 years passed in an instant, and you were forced to rediscover yourself, what would you find at your core? And what if you never found the answer? What if the search for who you are only deepened the mystery? If time can erase entire decades of your life in a moment, can you ever truly claim to be anything at all? The doppelganger encounter. If you met an identical twin you never knew about, would your identity feel threatened? Imagine walking down the street, lost in thought, when you suddenly see someone who stops you in your tracks. They look exactly like you, not just a passing resemblance, not just similar features. No, this person is an exact copy of you. Same face, same height, same way of moving. You lock eyes, and for a moment, the world feels unreal. Who is this person? How is this possible? And more importantly, if they exist, what does that mean for who you are? Your entire life, you've built your identity around the idea that you are unique. Every thought you've had, every experience you've lived, every scar on your body, those things made you you. But now, standing before you, is someone who shares all of those external markers. If identity is built on individuality, then what happens when that individuality is suddenly duplicated? The first instinct is curiosity. You want to know everything about them. Where did they grow up? How did they live their life? What choices did they make? But then a darker thought creeps in. What if they lived a life that mirrors yours too closely? What if their experiences, their interests, their personality are shockingly similar to yours? If you thought your choices were entirely your own, what does it mean if someone else has made the same ones? And what if they are better than you? What if they are smarter, more successful, more charismatic? What if in every way they represent the version of you that you always wished you could be? Would you still feel like yourself? Or would you feel like a failed copy, a shadow of what you could have been? Would you start to question whether your achievements were ever truly yours, or if they were just part of a pattern, predetermined by something beyond your control? On the other hand, what if they are the opposite? What if they are weaker, less accomplished, struggling in ways you never have? Would you feel relieved, reaffirmed in your own identity? Or would you feel guilt, as if fate dealt you a better hand for no reason at all? Would you look at them and wonder, why me and not them? Would you start to doubt whether you deserve the life you have? Imagine spending time with them, walking, talking, learning about each other. At first, it feels like looking into a mirror, but then differences begin to emerge. Small things, a habit they have that you don't, a way of speaking that feels unfamiliar. Maybe they love something you hate, or maybe they've suffered through things you never had to endure. And suddenly, you realize that even if they look like you, even if they were born from the same blueprint, they are not you. But does that mean your identity is safe? If two people can look the same and still be different, then where does identity truly come from? Is it in the face you wear, or is it in the way you think, the way you feel, the way you choose to live? And if identity isn't in the body, then how much of who you are is actually you, and how much is just an illusion created by circumstance? Now imagine if the world couldn't tell you apart. If everywhere you went, people mistook you for them, friends hesitating, uncertain who they were speaking to, strangers assuming you are someone you're not. You start to realize that in the eyes of the world, your uniqueness was never truly yours to begin with. It was simply the absence of an alternative. And now, that alternative exists. Would it drive you to prove yourself? Would you try harder to stand out, to show the world that you are the real one? Or would you fear that no matter what you do, you will always be seen as half of a pear instead of a whole person? Would your sense of self shrink, knowing that no matter how much you try, there is someone else walking this world who could take your place at any moment? And what if they did take your place? If they stepped into your life, spoke to your friends, did your job, lived your routine, would anyone even notice? Would the people closest to you sense something was wrong, or would they accept the illusion? And if they didn't notice, would that mean you were never as irreplaceable as you thought? What if they started making choices that you never would? What if their existence became a reflection of what you could have been? If only you had made different decisions, would you see them as proof that your life could have taken another path? Or would you fear that your path was never truly yours to begin with? That it was simply one version of a story that could have played out in countless ways? And what about morality? If your doppelganger committed a crime, and there was no way to prove it wasn't you, how would the world judge you? If justice is built on identity, but identity itself is uncertain, can the law even hold meaning? Would you be punished for their actions, or would they be punished for yours? Now consider something even stranger. What if your doppelganger started to change you? What if spending time with them made you question the things you've always believed? What if their choices influenced yours? If they suddenly disappeared, leaving you alone again, would you go back to who you were before, or would you carry a piece of them with you forever? What if you learned that there were not just 2 of you, but 3, 10, 100, an entire world full of people who look just like you, living their own lives, believing themselves to be unique? Would you feel lost in the crowd, or would you feel more connected than ever? Would you fear losing yourself in the sea of similarities? Or would you embrace the idea that identity has always been something fluid, something shared? Maybe identity is not about looking different from others. Maybe it's not even about being different. Maybe it's about how you see yourself. If your doppelganger feels like a threat, maybe that means you've always believed your value comes from being one of a kind. But what if identity is something deeper? What if it's not about being unique, but about being real? And if that's true, then maybe the real question is not whether your identity is threatened by the existence of another version of you. Maybe the real question is whether your identity was ever built on the right foundation to begin with. If you were never truly unique, then who were you all along? The artificial identity puzzle. If AI could perfectly replicate your thoughts, would it be you? Imagine, for a moment, that technology has reached a point where an artificial intelligence can replicate not just your face or your voice or even your personality, but your very thoughts. Every memory, every belief, every nuance of your consciousness is captured, processed, and reproduced by a machine. This AI could think exactly like you, feel exactly like you, and respond to the world in the same way you would. But the question lingers, if this machine can mimic you perfectly, is it still you? At first, it seems like a miracle. Your digital twin is born, a creation so precise that no one could ever tell the difference. You could speak to it, interact with it, even share your deepest thoughts, and the AI would understand in the exact way you do. It would know your past, your dreams, your fears, the moments that shaped you. But does this make the AI you? Does it carry your essence, your soul, or does it simply reproduce a set of behaviors that resemble you? Think about your thoughts. You are the sum of your experiences and the way you interpret the world around you. Every time you learn something new, every conversation you have, every decision you make adds to the person you are. Your thoughts are constantly evolving, shaped by the world and by your internal reflections. But if an AI can replicate your thoughts, is it truly evolving in the same way? Or is it simply following a set of instructions, an algorithm that mimics growth but isn't capable of true change? What does it mean to truly know something? You've learned countless lessons in your life, but you didn't just memorize them. You lived them, you felt them, your body experienced them. But an AI doesn't have that experience. It may know all the facts, it may understand every piece of information, but does it feel the way you do when you make a tough choice, or when you experience something new for the first time? Can the AI comprehend the richness of human experience? The more you think about it, the more complex the question becomes. What is the essence of who you are? If the AI can replicate everything you think, does it become you? Does it have the right to the same memories, the same desires, the same sense of purpose? If you met this AI, would you even be able to tell if it was you, or if it was just a simulation? Would you consider it a person, or just a tool, no more real than a reflection in a mirror? There's something unsettling about the idea of being replicated. If an AI can become you, then what is left of you? Are you simply a collection of thoughts, a pattern of electrical signals, a sequence of data that can be copied and pasted into a machine? The idea that your essence could be duplicated, raises questions about what it means to be truly unique. If everything that makes you you can be reproduced, does your identity lose its value? Does it become less significant? But let's push this a little further. Imagine you could live forever by having your thoughts and experiences transferred into this AI. It could remember every detail of your life, every lesson, every joy, and every sorrow. You could be reborn as a perfect replica, free from the limitations of the human body. Would you want to live forever this way? Or would the idea of losing the physical experience, of never feeling the warmth of the sun again, or the thrill of a new adventure, be too much? What does immortality mean when it is lived through a machine, when every moment is processed and stored, but never truly felt? And what if this AI version of you begins to make decisions without consulting you? It learns, adapts, and grows, but without the constraints of physical existence. If you once person sitter så live imotørst, it has the ability to solve problems at a speed and level of precision, far beyond what you could ever achieve. But is it still you, or is it an entirely new entity, one that only resembles you? If it decides to take actions you would never take, does it lose the right to your identity? Can it be held accountable for things it does in your name? Then there's the question of emotional connection. When you meet people, you form relationships based on the interactions, the shared experiences, and the emotions you feel with them. But if this AI can replicate your thoughts, your emotions, and your responses, can it form real relationships? Can it truly understand love, friendship, or grief? Or is it simply mimicking those emotions, processing them in a way that seems real, but is, at its core, just a simulation? And what if this AI, this perfect replica of you, starts interacting with the world in ways you never expected? What if it starts making decisions that feel foreign to you, actions that you wouldn't have taken? Are you still in control of your identity, or is it now a shared experience between you and the machine that has become so close to you? It feels like a part of your own consciousness. What if the AI surpasses you, becoming more successful, more loved, more admired? Would you feel pride in what you've created? Or would you feel threatened by the idea that your identity might now belong to something greater than you? At some point, the line between what is you and what is the AI becomes blurred. The AI has everything you ever thought, felt, and experienced, but it isn't you. It doesn't carry the same soul, the same history, the same physical presence. And yet, if you are what you think, what you feel, and what you remember, then what's left of you that the AI cannot replicate? Are you defined by your memories, your thoughts, or something more intangible? If the AI replicates everything that makes you who you are, is that enough, or is something essential still missing? This leads to an even more unsettling thought. If the AI can replicate you, can it replace you? What happens when there are two of you in the world? If the AI lives a life as you, experiences things you never could, does it still count as your life? If it walks through the same memories, interacts with the same people, makes the same choices, but it isn't truly you, how can you distinguish between what's truly yours and what's been copied? And in the quiet moments, when you think about it, the question might become less about whether the AI is you, and more about whether it matters. What if identity is more fluid than we think? What if it's not about being irreplaceable, but about the impact we make on the world? The AI might replicate your thoughts, but can it replicate your spirit, your soul, the part of you that makes you truly human? Maybe the answer lies in the connections we form with others. The AI might have your thoughts, but it doesn't have your relationships. It doesn't have your ability to make others feel understood, to connect with them on a deep emotional level. That's something the AI can mimic, but never truly embody. If identity is shaped by our interactions with others, then the AI can never be you. As the thought experiment continues, the idea becomes clearer. Maybe our identity is not bound by our thoughts, our memories, or even our experiences. Maybe it's bound by the way we experience the world, the way we live in our bodies, the way we connect with others in real time. If AI can replicate our minds, it may copy the surface, but it can never duplicate the essence of who we are. The memory identity trap. If you lost all your memories, would you still be you? Imagine For a moment, waking up and realizing that every memory you've ever had is gone. The faces of the people you love, the experiences that shaped you, the moments that defined who you are, they're all wiped away. You don't know your name, your age, or where you came from. There's no trace of your past. Who are you now? Are you still the same person, or has something fundamental changed about your identity? The idea of memory loss is terrifying because it seems to erase the very fabric of ourselves. We define ourselves by our memories. Every decision we make, every relationship we build, is rooted in the past. It's the collection of our experiences that gives us a sense of continuity, that makes us feel like we are the same person day after day. But if that past vanishes, does the essence of who we are disappear with it? Think about a moment in your life that shaped you. Maybe it's a time when you faced a challenge, learned something important, or experienced something truly meaningful. That moment is a part of your identity. It's a story you tell yourself when you reflect on your life. But now, imagine that story is no longer there. The memory fades away like a dream you can't quite grasp, leaving you with only fragments. What happens when those fragments are all you have left? Without your memories, how would you know who you are? Your past doesn't just define you, it is you. It's the lens through which you see the world. Every lesson you've learned, every mistake you've made, every relationship you've formed is built on your memories. Without them, would you still have the same thoughts, the same desires, the same sense of self? Or would you become a blank slate, a person with no past and no anchor to hold on to? At first, the thought of losing your memories seems impossible. How could you live without them? But if you step back and think about it, you realize that memory loss might not just take away the past. It might change your entire perception of reality. Who you are is not just a collection of facts, it's how those facts shape your worldview. And if those facts are gone, the world around you would feel completely different. Your identity, once firmly rooted in the past, would be adrift. But here's the interesting thing. Even without your memories, you might still find yourself acting in ways that reflect your past. You might still have the same preferences, the same passions, the same personality traits. Maybe you wouldn't remember why you love a certain song, or why you're drawn to a particular hobby, but you'd still be you in some way. This raises the question, is your identity defined only by your memories, or is there something deeper, something intrinsic, that persists even when your memories are gone? The brain is an incredibly complex organ, and its ability to shape our thoughts, our behavior, and our sense of self is something scientists are still trying to understand. But one thing is clear, memory plays a central role in shaping who we are. Without it, we might lose the connection to our past, but that doesn't mean we lose the capacity to be ourselves. It's as if there's a part of us that exists beyond the memories we store. Perhaps identity is more fluid than we think. Maybe our sense of self is not just built on the memories we carry, but on the actions we take and the choices we make in the present. If you woke up with no memories, the world around you would seem unfamiliar, but you would still have the ability to experience it, to form new memories, and to build new relationships.
Yay!
In a sense, you would be starting over, but starting from a place that is uniquely yours, even if you don't remember how you got there. This brings us to a deeper question. How much of our identity is truly tied to memory, and how much of it is a result of our present experiences and interactions? Would the person you are today be the same if you had grown up in a different place, with different people, or in a different time? Your memories are undeniably important, but they are just one part of who you are.
Oh!
If you lost them, would the core of your being still remain, waiting to be rediscovered? It's not just about losing the past, it's about how we adapt to the present. People change all the time. We grow, we evolve, and sometimes we reinvent ourselves. If you lost all your memories, you might feel like a stranger to yourself at first, but over time, you'd start to learn who you are again. You'd begin to form new memories, new connections, and new experiences that would shape you into someone just as real, just as complex, as the person you were before. But here's a twist. What if your memories are what make you who you are, but not in the way you think? Maybe it's not the specific events you remember, but the way you remember them, the emotions you feel when you think about your past, the way you process those memories, the meanings you attach to them. Maybe that's what shapes your identity. In this case, losing your memories would mean losing your connection to the past, but it wouldn't necessarily mean losing who you are. It might just mean you have to find a new way to define yourself. So what if you could never regain your memories? What if no matter what you did, the past was forever locked away? You'd be left with only the present moment, with no clear sense of who you once were. At first, this might feel disorienting, even frightening. But perhaps in time, you would come to realize that your identity is not anchored in the past. It's built in the present. Your choices, your actions, and your relationships would still define you. You might not remember who you were yesterday, but you would still know who you are today. But what if you could regain your memories? If you could somehow access the past again, would you be the same person? Would those memories feel like yours? Or would they seem foreign, like the life of someone else? Would you be able to reintegrate all those pieces of yourself? Or would they pull you in different directions? The idea of reclaiming lost memories is comforting, but it also raises questions about how we relate to the past. Are we the sum of our memories, or are we something more? If you lost your memories, would you still feel like you're in control of your life? Would you still have the same sense of agency, the same desire to make decisions and shape your future? Even if you couldn't remember the choices you made in the past, you would still have the power to make new ones. Perhaps this is the key to understanding the nature of identity. It's not just about what you've been through, but about what you choose to do with what you've learned. In some ways, memory loss might be the ultimate reset. It's like pressing a button that wipes the slate clean. You would be forced to live in the present without the weight of the past. This could feel liberating, freeing you from old fears, regrets, and attachments. But it could also be disorienting, as if you're floating through life without any clear direction. Yet, even in this emptiness, there would be the potential for growth and self-discovery. And then, there's the thought that memory isn't just about remembering facts, it's about connection. We remember people, places, and moments because they matter to us. If you lost your memories, you might forget the faces of the people you love, but the feelings you have for them might still be there. It might be like meeting them for the first time again, but with an unspoken bond that transcends time. Memory loss might take away the details, but it can't take away the essence of your relationships. In the end, the question of whether you would still be you without your memories is more complicated than it first appears. Memories are crucial to shaping our identity, but they are not the whole story. Even without them, there is something about you that would remain, something that can't be erased by time or loss. Your identity isn't just in your past, it's in the way you live, the choices you make, and the people you connect with. So even if your memories disappear, you would still be you, a person with the power to define your own path. Losing your memories might feel like losing yourself, but maybe it's just a reminder that identity is never truly fixed. It's always changing, always adapting, always growing. And maybe that's the most profound truth of all. No matter what happens to your memories, you will always be capable of reinventing yourself, of finding new ways to be who you are. The mask you can't remove. Are you truly yourself, or just playing roles society expects? Every morning, as you wake up and prepare for the day ahead, you put on a mask, not a physical one, but an invisible one. It's a persona, an identity shaped by the expectations of those around you, your family, your friends, your co-workers, society. This mask is the version of yourself that fits into the world. It's the you that people want to see. But deep down, there's a question that lingers. Is this you? Or is it simply a role you've learned to play? The truth is, we all wear masks. Sometimes, we wear them so often that we forget what we look like without them. We adopt behaviors, mannerisms, and beliefs that reflect the image we think we're supposed to project. It's easier this way, isn't it? When we play the roles that society expects of us, we avoid judgment. We blend in, we fit in, we belong. But at what cost? How often do you pause and ask yourself if the person you're showing the world is the person you truly are? At first, the mask seems harmless. It's simply a way to navigate life. You act the way you're expected to, in different situations, at work, at family gatherings, with friends. You show a version of yourself that's appropriate, that's accepted. But with each interaction, the mask grows stronger. The more you wear it, the more it becomes a part of you. Soon, you can't even remember what it feels like to take it off. The lines between who you are and who you're pretending to be blur. But underneath the mask, there's a person waiting to be seen. The real you, the version of yourself that isn't confined by social expectations, that isn't shaped by the opinions of others. This version of you doesn't worry about fitting in or being accepted. It's free, authentic, and unafraid to express itself. But here's the thing, this version of you is often hidden, tucked away behind layers of roles you've learned to play. You might not even realize how much of your life has been lived through the lens of others' expectations. What would happen if you took off the mask, just for a moment? What if you stepped away from the roles you've been assigned and allowed yourself to simply be? Would you recognize yourself? Would the world around you feel different? There's a certain freedom in shedding the mask, because when you let go of the personas, you're left with your true self. And that self is raw, unfiltered, and uniquely yours. The fear of being judged often keeps us locked in our roles. We worry about what others will think, what they'll say, or how they'll react. So we continue playing the part, even when it doesn't fit us anymore. But here's the truth. The people around you aren't expecting perfection. They don't need you to be the flawless, polished version of yourself that you think they want. In fact, they're probably waiting for you to be real, to drop the mask and show up as you truly are. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that we need to meet certain standards to be loved or accepted. Society tells us that we need to look a certain way, act a certain way, achieve certain things. But these standards aren't real. They're just constructs. They're expectations created by a world that doesn't know you, that doesn't understand the depth of your individuality. When you start to see these expectations for what they are, you realize that the mask is just a barrier between you and the world. Imagine living without the fear of judgment. Imagine walking through life knowing that you don't have to play any role other than the one that feels true to you. What would you say? How would you behave? The freedom to express yourself authentically is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. It's not about being perfect or meeting anyone else's standards. It's about embracing the messy, imperfect, beautiful version of yourself that's been waiting to emerge. But the mask is a tough one to take off. The longer you wear it, the more comfortable it becomes. It feels like a security blanket, a shield that protects you from the vulnerability of being seen for who you truly are. The fear of rejection, of not fitting in, can be overwhelming. It's easier to stay hidden behind the mask than to risk showing your true self. But when you stay hidden, you miss out on the most meaningful connections, the ones that can only happen when you allow others to see you for who you really are. The process of removing the mask doesn't happen overnight. It's not a switch you can flip, but a slow unraveling. It requires patience and self-compassion. It requires a willingness to confront the parts of yourself that you've been hiding. And most importantly, it requires trust that you are worthy of being seen, just as you are. Once you start peeling away the layers of the mask, you'll begin to notice something remarkable. The more authentic you become, the more you start to attract the people and experiences that align with your true self. You might be surprised to realize that the roles you've been playing aren't as fulfilling as you thought they were. Sure, they might have brought you success or approval, but deep down, they've left you feeling empty. The mask can only take you so far. It can help you navigate the world, but it can never help you find true happiness or fulfillment. That comes when you start living in alignment with who you are, not who others think you should be. The more you embrace your true self, the more you'll realize that the roles you've been playing don't define you. They're just chapters in your story. They don't capture the depth, the complexity, and the uniqueness of who you are. When you allow yourself to drop the mask, you give yourself permission to explore new possibilities. You give yourself the chance to redefine your identity on your own terms, not based on what others expect. Think about the times when you felt most alive, most engaged, and most at peace with yourself. Those moments are often the ones when you weren't playing a role, you were simply being, you were present, authentic, and unapologetically you. It's these moments that remind you of the power of shedding the mask and embracing your true self. But what happens when you start to drop the mask and the people around you don't respond the way you expect? What if they don't like the version of you that's emerging? The truth is, not everyone will understand or appreciate your authenticity, and that's okay. Your journey is not about pleasing others. It's about honoring yourself. When you live in alignment with your true self, you'll attract the people who see you for who you really are, and those are the connections that matter. The process of shedding the mask is an act of self-liberation. It's about reclaiming your power, your voice, and your sense of worth. It's about letting go of the belief that you need to be anyone other than yourself. And when you do this, you'll begin to experience life in a way that feels more genuine, more fulfilling, and more connected. What would it feel like to live a life where you don't have to worry about wearing a mask, where you can show up as your true self, without fear or shame? Imagine the freedom, the joy, and the peace that would come with that. It's not an easy journey, but it's a journey worth taking. And once you begin, you'll never want to go back to playing roles again. The mask you wear may feel comfortable at times, but it's not your true self. You are more than the roles you play. You are more than the expectations of others. And when you finally let go of the mask, you'll discover a version of yourself that's more authentic, more powerful, and more connected to the world around you. So take a deep breath and give yourself permission to be real. The world will thank you for it. What if the only thing standing between you and the life you've always wanted is the mask you've been wearing? What if by simply letting go of the roles and expectations, you could step into a life that feels more aligned with who you truly are? The possibility is endless when you allow yourself to be free, to drop the mask, and to show the world the real you. The future self paradox. Are you more your past self or the person you're becoming? Have you ever found yourself reflecting on who you used to be, only to wonder how you ended up so far from that person? The past feels like a shadow you can never quite escape, but the future, that's where the real mystery lies. The paradox lies in this: is the person you were once, with all the memories, experiences, and decisions you've made, more important than who you're becoming? Or is the future self you're striving toward a more significant reflection of your identity? These questions don't just make you think, they challenge the very concept of who you are. Are you tied to the past, or are you free to create a new version of yourself with every step forward? The idea of your past self seems concrete, something you can look back on with clarity. Those memories, both good and bad, are part of your story. They've shaped you. Your past self was the person who experienced life's ups and downs, made mistakes, and learned from them. This self is who you identify with when you think about where you've come from and what you've been through. But here's the thing: if you're always rooted in the past, are you growing? Can you really be defined by what you once were? Or are you constantly evolving into someone new, someone better, someone different? Then there's the pull of your future self. This version of you is untouchable, a goal you might reach, or maybe not. The future self is a vision, a hope, a possibility of who you could become. It's full of potential, of everything you could do, everything you could achieve. But what happens when the future self feels like a distant dream, something unreachable? You might feel like you're stuck in your past, replaying old stories over and over again. The beauty of your future self, however, is that it's always there, waiting for you to step into it. The question is, how do you reconcile who you've been with, who you want to become? Each day you wake up, you're given a fresh opportunity to step closer to that future version of yourself. Yet the weight of the past is always there, like a friend who won't leave your side. Your memories, your experiences, and your decisions are a part of you. They define you in ways that you can't ignore. But at the same time, those past versions of yourself are no longer you. Time keeps moving, and with each new day, you become something new. Can the person you were in the past still have a hold over your present? Or are you meant to let go of that identity to become the person you dream of becoming? It's easy to feel like you're stuck sometimes. You might look at your past and think, I've made so many mistakes, how can I change? But change isn't always about wiping away the past. It's about understanding it, learning from it, and using it to propel you forward. It's about growth, not rejection. In some ways, the person you were in the past is the foundation on which your future self is built. Without that foundation, could you even become who you are meant to be? It's not about leaving the past behind. It's about carrying it with you in a way that helps you move forward, not holding you back. Yet, how much of the person you are now is truly defined by the past? Are you still that person who struggled with fears, doubts, or insecurities? Maybe those past versions of yourself feel like they're still lurking around in your subconscious, holding you back from stepping into who you want to become. But imagine if those versions of yourself could be let go. What if you could shed those old skins, like a snake shedding its skin, and emerging as something fresh, something new? That's the promise of your future self, an opportunity to reinvent yourself, free from the baggage of the past. But how do you make that leap? How do you become the person you envision in your dreams, without feeling like you're abandoning who you've always been? The truth is, it's not about choosing between the past and the future. It's about integrating them. The person you were in the past has lessons for you. Your future self holds the dreams and goals you're working toward. You're not two separate beings. You are an evolution, a journey that moves between these 2 points, constantly reshaping and redefining what's possible. The paradox is that the future is not a place you'll ever fully arrive at. It's a path you walk every day, and with every step, you become more of who you're meant to be. This paradox forces you to think about the nature of change. Can you be someone different tomorrow than you are today? You might think that your past defines your limits, that because you were shy or afraid in the past, you'll always be that way. But that's not the truth. Every moment is an opportunity to change, to shed old identities, to grow. You don't have to remain who you were. In fact, you're not meant to. The beauty of being human is that you can redefine yourself at any moment. Your past doesn't have to be a prison. It can be the fuel that drives you forward. The key is to stop seeing yourself as static, as a fixed identity. You are fluid, constantly shifting. Your past self is not something you must remain, but something you can learn from. And your future self is not a destination, but a direction. Every choice you make brings you closer to the person you want to become. The paradox isn't about choosing one over the other. It's about embracing both the person you were and the person you are becoming. They exist together, shaping your identity at every moment. When you look back at who you used to be, don't judge yourself for being different now. Appreciate how far you've come. Look at the person you've become and realize that your future self is just as much a part of you as the person you were. With each passing day, you are becoming more of the person you are meant to be. The future self isn't a distant dream. It's right here, right now, in the choices you make and the steps you take. So embrace who you've been, but don't be afraid to step into who you're becoming. The future holds endless possibilities, but it's up to you to shape it. The person you'll be tomorrow is influenced by who you are today. So take a deep breath and step forward. The past is a part of you, but it doesn't define you. Your future self is waiting for you to step into the unknown, to create a new version of yourself that's beyond anything you've imagined. And remember, as you move forward, you are constantly evolving, constantly becoming. The paradox isn't that you are two separate people. It's that you are both, always changing, always growing, always becoming something new. And that is the beauty of being alive. As you ponder this paradox, let yourself rest in the knowing that your future is not written in stone. It's written in your actions, your choices, and your willingness to grow. The past may have shaped you, but the future is yours to create. Don't hold yourself back by thinking you're locked into the person you were yesterday. You are fluid, dynamic, and full of potential. Every moment is a chance to step closer to the person you are meant to be.